The Galactic Federation voted unanimously to ban humans from zoos, but not for the reasons humanity hoped. When the flora first arrived to catalog Earth's harmless biodiversity, they expected docile grazers and chirping avians, creatures worthy of glass enclosures and informational plaques. Instead, they found a planet where spiders liquefy organs, fungi pilot ants like meat puppets, and something called a platypus exists purely, scientists suspect, to spite God. The Council recoiled. Predation was one thing, this was artistry. Reports flooded Federation channels. A delegate's aide quit after watching a Komodo dragon digest a goat alive. A xenobotanist fainted upon learning about mosquitoes. They drink you? Voluntarily? But it was the honey badger footage, archival clips of a sinewy beast shrugging off venom, breaking into fortified enclosures, and biting a safari jeep's tire until it wept rubber that sparked emergency legislation. S-class ecological threat, the decree read. Containment protocols advised. Humans, oblivious to their role as curators of chaos, celebrated. Finally, recognition. They polished their apex predator plaques, unaware the galaxy now saw them not as zookeepers, but zookeepers' lunch. The flora disagreed. Violence, they argued, could be sterilized. But Earth's creatures carried a deeper contagion, defiance. A refusal to die neatly, a hunger that turned prey into paradox. Somewhere in the dark between stars, a biologist smirked, popped open a crate and whispered, "Showtime." The galaxy never stood a chance. Chapter 1. The airlock hissed like a punctured lung. Dr. Eli Walsh leaned against the cold metal wall, his breath fogging the visor of his cobbled-together environmental suit. The Federation's sanitized oxygen always smelled wrong, too crisp, too floral, like a greenhouse trying to mask rot. He missed Earth's musk, the tang of swamp water and diesel fuel. The kind of stench that clung to your pores and told you you'd earned your keep. Ambassador Walsh, chimed a voice from his wristcom. Eli didn't need to glance at the holographic flora emblem flickering there to know it was another reminder. Hurry. Perform. Beg. He adjusted the makeshift collar of his suit, patched with duct tape and crocodile leather. The Galactic Federation's menagerie of the cosmos wasn't a place for humans. Not anymore. Not since the incident at Vega 9, where some over-caffeinated Marine had punched a Zignaran diplomat for calling him a hairless ape. Now humanity's application for membership dangled by a thread, and Eli, biologist, former war medic, professional chaos gremlin, was the one holding the scissors. Or the blowtorch, he thought, smirking as he palmed the reinforced crate at his feet. Inside, something scratched insistently against the locks. The inner airlock door slid open, revealing the menagerie's central atrium. Eli's boots clanked against the crystalline floor, which shimmered with bioluminescent veins like frozen lightning. Around him, holographic exhibits pulsed, a floating Jovian gas whale, its tendrils undulating in silent majesty, a colony of silicon-based mites from Proxima b, arranged into fractal towers. The flora had designed this place as a temple to controlled biodiversity, a term Eli translated as look but don't touch, ever. A cluster of flora delegates drifted toward him, their bodies translucent and willow-thin, chlorophyll shimmering beneath epidermis like stained glass. Their faces, if you could call the swirling knots of bioluminescent nodes faces, rippled with displeasure. "You are late," intoned Senator Vin, her voice a rustle of autumn leaves. Eli recognized her by the jagged scar running down her torso, a souvenir from an ill-advised encounter with a Venusian thorn vine. "Traffic was hell," Eli said, hefting the crate. "Ran into a swarm of asteroid lice in the belt. Nasty buggers. You ever see what they do to a thruster array? Like piranhas with a welding torch." The flora recoiled as a group, their fronds bristling. Vin's nodes darkened to a stormy indigo. "Your informality is noted, Ambassador. Proceed." Eli grinned, all teeth. They hated him. Good. Hatred was predictable. It was the ones who pretended to care you had to watch. He followed them to Earth's exhibit, a laughably small alcove between the towering displays of the Krellian iceworms and the methane-breathing orchids of Tau Ceti. The sign above the entrance read Terra, Predator-Prey Dynamics Kyoshin in glowing common. Someone had tacked on a handwritten addendum: "Seriously, don't tap the glass." Inside the exhibit was a diorama of Earth's highlights: a mangy taxidermied lion, a jar of preserved mosquitoes labeled Vector of Death, and a looped hollow vid of a shark attack. Eli's jaw tightened. They'd used stock footage from Jaws. Of course they had. "This is your final chance to justify humanity's inclusion," Vin said, her tone frostier than Europa's core. "The Council remains unconvinced your species possesses the restraint required for Federation membership." Eli set the crate down with a thud. "Yeah, about that. See, I think you've got it backwards." He tapped the control panel on the crate, disabling the dampeners. The scratching intensified. "You keep judging us by your rules. But we're not like you. We're not tidy." The Felora's fronds quivered. One of the junior delegates emitted a high-pitched whistle, their version of a gasp. "You called this violence?" Eli gestured to the shark vid. "This is just Tuesday. Let me show you what happens when Earth really wants to make a point." He slammed his palm on the crate's release. The honey badger exploded outward in a blur of fur and fury. It was barely 2 feet long, a muscle-bound sausage with claws like steak knives. The Felora shrieked, their bioluminescence strobing panic yellow, as the creature skidded across the floor, sniffed the air, and locked onto Senator Vin's ceremonial wig, a towering arrangement of biopolymer filaments meant to resemble old Earth kelp. "Ambassador," Vin screeched, backpedaling. "Contain it." Eli crossed his arms. "Contain it. Lady, that's Naja. She's a honey badger. You don't contain her. You survive her." Naja leapt. The wig came off in her jaws with a sound like Velcro ripping in hell. The senator's nodes blazed crimson as she stumbled, fronds flailing. The other delegates scattered, their photosynthesis panels dimming in terror. Chaos erupted. Naja bolted down the atrium, zigzagging between exhibits. She paused to urinate on the Krellian iceworm's containment field, triggering a proximity alarm that wailed like a dying theremin. A robotic cleaner bot skittered too close. Naja disemboweled it with a single swipe and used its carcass as a springboard to vault onto a service gantry. Eli watched, pride swelling in his chest. "That's my girl." Then the screaming started. Not the Felora's delicate whistles, this was a guttural human scream. Eli spun to see a maintenance worker in a Federation jumpsuit dangling from the gantry. Naja perched on his chest like a furry gargoyle. "Oh, for Naja." Eli barked. "Down. Now." The honey badger paused, her head cocked. For a heartbeat, Eli thought she'd listen. Then she sneezed in his general direction, and gnawed through the worker's safety harness. The man dropped 10 feet, landed in a heap, and immediately scrambled behind a trash compactor. Naja, bored, scampered toward a glowing bulkhead, marked engineering, restricted. Eli sprinted after her, dodging panicked delegates. His lungs burned. The menagerie's air was too thin, too clean. He missed the sticky humidity of the Everglades, the way your shirt clung to your back like a second skin. He caught up just as Naja sank her teeth into the bulkhead's seal. Sparks flew. The metal groaned. "Stop!" A squad of Federation peacekeepers clattered around the corner, their plasma rifles humming. "Step away from the creature." Eli threw himself between Naja and the rifles. "Whoa. Easy. She's just curious." "Curious?" The lead peacekeeper's voice crackled through his helmet. "It's breaching the hull." "Yeah. Well, she's a honey badger. They dig, it's what they do." Naja, as if on cue, ripped a conduit free. Fluorescent hydraulic fluid sprayed the wall. Alarms blared. Final warning. The peacekeeper leveled his rifle. Eli's mind raced. He could tackle the guy, maybe, disable the rifle, but that'd land him in a cell, and Earth's application would implode. Instead, he did the only thing he could think of. He laughed. It started as a snort, then ballooned into full-throated, knee-slapping guffaws. The peacekeepers froze, confused. You're gonna shoot her?" Eli wheezed, wiping tears. "With plasma? Oh man. You ever seen what happens when a honey badger gets pissed? Here." He yanked a data chip from his pocket, and tossed it. Play that. Bottom file. The lead peacekeeper caught the chip, hesitated, then slotted it into his wristcom. A hologram bloomed. Nausea. Fur singed but very much alive, tearing through the smoldering wreckage of a plasma tank. That's from last week, Eli said. She ate 3 of my best traps, then took a nap in the reactor core. After it melted down, the peacekeepers exchanged glances. One whispered, "What the Shrek is wrong with Earth?" Before they could respond, the bulkhead gave way with a metallic scream. Nausea vanished into the ductwork, her triumphant chittering echoing through the vents. 3 hours later, Eli sat in a detention cell, picking dried hydraulic fluid from his beard. The walls hummed with a dampening field that made his teeth ache. He'd been in worse holes. At least this one didn't smell like urine. The door slid open. Senator Vin entered, her wig replaced by a lopsided bandage. Behind her hovered a holographic screen displaying the Federation's emblem, a circle of intertwined flora, now crackling with static. "You," she hissed, "have doomed your species." Eli leaned back, lacing his fingers behind his head. "Nah, we were already doomed. This just speeds up the paperwork." Vin's nodes flickered. "The Council has classified honey badgers as an S-class threat. Your planet's ecosystem is deemed irredeemably volatile. Eradicate them or forfeit membership." The words hung in the air, heavier than the dampening field. Eli's smirk faded. He uncrossed his legs, planting his boots firmly on the floor. "Eradicate," he repeated. "All hyperviolent species. Starting with that thing." Eli stood slowly, the cell's ceiling barely clearing his head. "You don't know what you're asking." "We are offering mercy," Vin snapped. "A chance to prove humanity can be civilized. To control your nature." "Control?" Eli's voice dropped to a growl. "Lady, you ever tried to control a hurricane? A wildfire? Life's not a damn spreadsheet. It's messy. It's mean. And yeah, sometimes it bites your face off. But that's how it survives." Vin retreated a step. "Then you choose extinction." "No." Eli grabbed the holographic screen, ignoring the burn in his palms as he twisted its projection. The Federation emblem warped, replaced by a live feed of Earth. Blue-green, fractured, beautiful. "We choose this. The whole damn mess. Warts and all." He tapped his wristcom, uploading the Honey Badger vs. Plasma Tank vid to every public channel in the galaxy. "Let's see you stamp out life that's stubborn," he whispered. As the cell door sealed behind Vin, Eli slumped onto the bench. His hands trembled, not from fear, but the old guilt, the memories he'd buried under fieldwork and smartass remarks. Flashes of triage tents, soldiers begging for morphine, his own voice saying, "I can't save you." But this, he thought, staring at the frozen image of nausea gnawing on tank treads. "This I can save." Somewhere in the vents, a familiar chitter echoed. Eli smiled. "Atta girl." Chapter 2. The detention cell's dampening field buzzed like a swarm of flies trapped in Eli's skull. He pressed his palms to his temples, trying to drown it out, but the noise seeped into his molars, his spine, the old shrapnel scar above his kidney. He'd endured worse. Boot camp on Mars, the fungal jungles of Kepler 22b, the year he'd spent sharing a lab with a Komodo dragon with irritable bowel syndrome. But this waiting, gnawed at him. Nausea's chittering had gone silent an hour ago. He hoped she'd found a vent shaft, a forgotten crate of rations, a way out. Honey badgers didn't do cages. Neither did he. The door hissed open. Eli tensed, expecting Vin's glacial wrath, or another peacekeeper's plasma barrel. Instead, a scent flooded the cell, petrichor and burnt sugar, unmistakably flora, but laced with something sharper. Motor oil. Human defiance. Up growled the figure in the doorway. Not a senator. A flora, yes, but her fronds were cropped short, her bioluminescence muted under a scarred exosuit. She held a plasma cutter, one translucent hand, its tip still glowing. Eli rose slowly, eyeing the smoldering hole she'd carved through the door. "You're either here to kill me or recruit me. Either way, I'm flattered." The flora didn't smile, their species didn't, but her nodes flickered a grudging cobalt. "Call me Kess, and shut up." She tossed him a respirator, its filter streaked with algae green. Eli strapped it on, the taste of moss flooding his mouth. Kess marched him through the menagerie's service corridors, now eerily empty. The air stank of scorched metal and panic. They emerged onto a docking platform, where a stolen Flora skiff hummed, its hull streaked with carbon scoring. A human man leaned against the ramp, his left arm a jury-rigged prosthetic of salvaged Federation tech and Earth steel. He glanced up, eyes shadowed under a mechanic's cap. "Took you long enough," he drawled. "Rook, explosives and bad decisions." Eli, "Bad decisions and explosives." Rook snorted. "We'll get along fine." The skiff's interior was a nest of wires and weaponry. Holo maps of Earth glowed on the walls, dotted with crimson markers. Flora fleet positions. Eli's chest tightened. They were everywhere. "They'll glass the planet," Kess said, piloting the skiff into the black. "Turn your biosphere into a museum diorama. Observe the extinct humans and their rabid pests." Eli's fingers dug into the armrest. "We're not extinct yet. You will be." Kess nodded to the viewport. A flora dreadnought loomed, its hull a tangled mass of bioluminescent vines and pulse cannons. "That's the root of clarity. Flagship of the Biopurge fleet. They're seeding the atmosphere with neural toxins. Make your fauna docile." "Docile." Eli's laugh was a dry crack. "Lady, you can't drug a hurricane." Rook handed him a flask. The whiskey burned like napalm. "We've been hitting their supply lines. Slowing 'em down. But we need a play, CrocDoc. Something messy." Eli stared at the dreadnought. Memories surfaced. Corpses in the mud. A child's hand clutching a half-melted toy. "You can't save everyone. But he could try." "Where's Mira?" Kess asked abruptly. Rook stiffened. "Where she always is." A curtain of beadwork clattered as a young woman emerged from the skiff's rear compartment. Her hair was a storm of black curls, her eyes the same swamp green as Eli's. She carried a datapad, its screen dense with flora glyphs. Eli's breath caught. "Mira." She didn't look at him. "Ambassador." The title was a knife. He deserved it. He'd missed her first steps, her graduation, the funeral of her mother, his ex-wife, who died thinking he cared more about crocodiles than his own child. "Mira's our decoder," Rook said, too cheerfully. "Slices flora comms, like butter. Someone has to clean up his messes." Mira muttered, brushing past Eli. Her perfume was jasmine and gunpowder. Kess routed the skiff into a decaying orbit, Earth's shadow swallowing them whole. They descended through acid yellow clouds, the sky choked with flora spores. Eli pressed his forehead to the viewport. The Amazon was a graveyard of toppled kapoks, their roots strangled by invasive fungal blooms. A herd of tapirs lay dead in a riverbed, their mouths foaming green. "They're terraforming," Kess said. "Rewriting your ecosystem." "Over my dead body," Eli whispered. The hideout was a relic of the Third Cold War, a bunker buried under the Nevada desert. The air tasted of rust and desperation. Rook had rigged the place with stolen Federation tech, a hologlobe flickering with enemy positions, a fridge full of beer and biotoxin antidotes. Mira worked at a terminal, her fingers dancing across keys. Eli hovered, aching to speak, to explain. She ignored him. "They're targeting the Congo next," she said finally. "Dropping toxin pods at dawn." Eli studied the hologlobe. The flora's pattern was clear. Dismantle Earth's biomes piece by piece, like pruning a diseased bonsai. But they'd missed the truth. The disease was the cure. "We need to redirect them," he said. "Give 'em a bigger target." Rook raised an eyebrow. "Got a pissed-off Godzilla in your back pocket?" "Better." Eli grinned. "Bullet ants. They suited up at midnight."
Mira stayed behind, her face bathed in the cold light of the terminal. Eli paused at the door. "You don't have to do this," he said. She didn't look up. "Someone has to save the world." Again. The words hung between them, barbed and bleeding. The jungle was a corpse wrapped in gauze. Mist clung to Eli's respirator as he waded through the fungal undergrowth, Rook and Kess flanking him. The flora had turned the canopy into a lattice of bioluminescent spores, the air thick enough to chew. "Contacts," Kess whispered. Ahead a flora mech suit crouched, its armor sprouting thorny vines. It was harvesting soil samples, delicately, like a surgeon carving a tumor. Eli unsealed the containment canister. Inside a seething mass of bullet ants boiled forth, their mandibles clicking in fury. Genetically enhanced, courtesy of a backwater lab in Jakarta. "Nature finds a way," Eli murmured, releasing them. The ants swarmed the mech, infiltrating joints and vents. The pilot screamed, a wet organic sound, as the ants breached the cockpit. The suit spasmed, crashing into a spore tower. The structure collapsed in a slow-motion ballet of light and rot. "One down," Rook said. "Hundreds to go," Kess replied. They hit 3 more patrols before the flora adapted. The next mechs came equipped with flamethrowers, incinerating the ants mid-swarm. Eli watched from a ridge as flames licked the sky, his jaw clenched. "Plan B," Rook said, unholstering a electromagnetic pulse grenade. "Wait." Eli gripped his arm. "They're hurting us. Look." The flames formed a perfect ring, closing in. "Trapped," Kess hissed. "Ambush." The mechs emerged from the mist, pulse rifles humming. Eli's mind raced. Bullet ants were out. Fire was out. But the jungle itself, he grabbed a fistful of fungal blooms, their spores glowing toxic green. "You ever play chicken with a mexamycete, Rook?" "Can't say I have. Time to learn." Eli hurled the blooms at the nearest mech. The spores ignited on contact with the flamethrower, engulfing the suit in emerald fire. Chaos. The mechs scrambled, friendly fire shredding their ranks. Eli dragged Rook and Kess into a crevice as the inferno raged. "You're insane," Kess panted. "Yep." Eli grinned. "But I'm right." Nan found them at a river's edge, washing soot and spores from their skin. Kess peeled back her exosuit, revealing a gash where a mech's thorn had grazed her. Chlorophyll-rich blood oozed, sluggish. "You're hurt," Eli said. "It's nothing." He rummaged his pack for a suture kit. "Hold still." Kess flinched as the needle bit. "Why do this?" "Risk treason." Eli shrugged. "Why do you?" Her nodes dimmed. "My people, we are stagnant, pruned. You humans are weeds. Ugly. Stubborn. We need that." Rook chuckled. "Hell of a pep talk." Mira's voice crackled over the comms. "Eli, you need to see this." The hologlobe pulsed with new data. A flora transmission decrypted. Hostage manifests. Eli's heart stopped. Dr. Leela Walsh, his ex-wife. Alive. Mira's face filled the screen, tears cutting tracks through the grime. "They have her. They have Mom." The bunker's lights flickered. Eli's knees buckled. Guilt was a old coat, but this was a shroud. "We'll get her back," he said, the promise ash in his mouth. Mira's eyes hardened. "You don't get to make promises. Not anymore." The screen went dark. They launched the final raid at twilight. The flora had fortified their toxin depot, a towering spire of biosteel. Rook planted charges, while Kess snipered patrols. Eli scaled the walls, his fingers raw and bleeding. At the summit a toxin pod glowed, its payload enough to sterilize a continent. Eli input the disarm code. Mira had stolen. The pod hissed, inert. "All clear," he radioed. Rook's laugh echoed. "Easy as." The explosion tore the depot apart. Eli woke in the rubble, his ribs screaming. Kess lay nearby, her fronds scorched. Rook's prosthetic arm was gone. The stump sparking. Mechs. Rook coughed. Self-destruct protocol. Eli dragged them to the extraction point. Each step a symphony of pain. The skiff descended, Mira piloting with grim precision. As they limped aboard, she handed Eli a medkit. Their fingers brushed. "You're hurt," she said. "I've had worse." For a heartbeat, her mask slipped. Fear. Love. Fury. Then she turned away. The skiff ascended. Earth shrinking below, wounded. Defiant. Alive. In the hold, Kess examined her scars. "They'll send more ships. Let them." Eli leaned back, exhaustion pulling him under. "We'll be here." Somewhere in the static, Nadja chittered. He slept.
Chapter 3. The Flora flagship hung in orbit like a serrated leaf, its bioluminescent hull pulsing with slow, rhythmic light. Eli floated in the skiff's airlock, staring at the vessel through the reinforced glass. It didn't look like a warship. It looked like a cathedral, a twisted, photosynthetic reliquary built to worship order. The kind of place where chaos goes to die, he thought, tightening the straps of his stolen exosuit. The suit stank of Flora pheromones, a cloying mix of jasmine and decay, but it would fool the biosensors, probably. Behind him, Mira prepped the comm array, her fingers a blur over the holographic controls. She hadn't spoken since they'd retrieved her mother from the toxin depot, since Lila had pressed a trembling hand to Eli's cheek and whispered, "You look tired." He was tired. Tired of war, of guilt, of pretending he could outrun the ghosts in his peripheral vision. But the mission wasn't done. "Signals ready," Mira said, her voice stripped of warmth. "Once you're inside, I'll loop the security feeds. You'll have 12 minutes, Eli nodded, adjusting the respirator grafted to his face. The mask itched, a constant reminder of the lie. 12's enough. It's suicide." "Yeah, well," he forced a grin. "I've got a great retirement plan." Mira didn't laugh. Her eyes, Lila's eyes, down to the flecks of gold, flicked to the holstered plasma pistol at his hip. "If you die, I'll kill you." The old joke hung between them, brittle as a spiderweb. Eli wanted to tell her he was sorry. For the birthdays missed, the promises broken, the way he'd buried himself in swamps and deserts, because facing her hurt more than any wound. Instead, he said, "Keep the engines hot." The airlock hissed open. Eli stepped into the void. The flagship's interior was a labyrinth of living wood and biosteel, corridors curving like arteries beneath a skin of dappled chlorophyll light. Eli moved silently, his boots magnetized to the deck. Every breath tasted of pollen and antiseptic. He passed Flora crew members, their fronds brushing in ritualized greeting, their nodes humming subharmonics he couldn't parse. Ants in a hive, he thought. No wonder they're scared of us. High Arbiter Vine's sanctum bloomed at the ship's heart, a vaulted chamber thick with hanging vines. The air shimmered with data streams, holograms of Earth rotating slowly. Amazonia scorched, the Sahara flooded, the Rockies strangled by Flora terraforming spores. At the room's center, Vine stood bathed in a shaft of amber light, her scarred torso armored in biopolymer plating. "You're late, Dr. Walsh," she said, not turning. Eli froze. "Did you think we wouldn't recognize your stench?" Vine's nodes flared crimson. Humanity clings to everything it touches, like mold. He tore off the respirator. "Mold's tougher than it looks." Vine gestured, and the chamber's vines lashed outward, pinning Eli's arms. Thorns pierced his exosuit, dribbling blood down his wrists. He gritted his teeth. "Oldest trick in the book. Should have brought weed killer. You've cost me years," Vine hissed. "Delays, scandals, that creature of yours gnawing through my fleet's reputation. Naya's got a strong work ethic," Vine backhanded him. Eli's head snapped sideways, his vision blurring. The taste of copper filled his mouth. "You'll execute the honey badger," Vine said, summoning a holographic contract, live, on all channels. "Then perhaps your species will earn a quick extinction." Eli spat blood. "You don't get it. We don't do quick." Vine leaned close, her breath smelling of damp soil. "You think this is about your animals, your pride? This is galactic hygiene. Your planet is a festering wound. We're the surgeons. Eli laughed. The sound echoed, raw and broken. Surgeons? Nah, you're gardeners, pruning anything that doesn't fit your pretty little grid. But life ain't a grid, it's a storm. Vine's fronds quivered. She opened her mouth to retort, and the sanctum's doors exploded inward. Mira stood in the smoke. Naya clutched in her arms like a furry missile. The honey badger squirmed, her claws shredding Mira's sleeves, but the girl held firm. Eli's heart lurched. No, no. I told her to stay on the skiff. Let him go, Mira said, her voice steady. Vine's nodes pulsed with amusement. Or what? You'll unleash your pet. Mira set Naya down. The honey badger sniffed the air, her beady eyes locking onto Vine. For a heartbeat, the chamber held its breath. Then Naya charged. Vine raised a hand, ready to vaporize the creature, and Naya skidded to a halt, her nose twitching. She circled the high arbiter, chittering, then rose on her hind legs and pawed at Vine's scar. Get off. Vine shoved her. Naya sneezed, then flopped onto her back, belly exposed. Silence. What? What is it doing? Vine whispered. Eli's throat tightened, asking for a belly rub. The words hung in the air, absurd and undeniable. Naya wriggled, her claws retracted, her earlier fury replaced by something almost playful. Vine stared, her nodes cycling through confusion, anger and a flicker of something softer. Impossible, she said. It's a trick. No trick. Eli yanked free of the vines, thorns ripping his skin. You see violence 'cause that's all you want to see, but that's not what she is, not what we are. He tapped his wrist comm. The holograms shifted, displaying the footage he'd uploaded weeks prior, not the honey badger's rampage, but the aftermath. Naya curled in Eli's lap, as he stitched a gash on her flank. A Flora medic tending to a wounded wolf, a child in Mumbai feeding pigeons amidst the ruins. The human contract, Eli said. We fight, we bleed, but we care, even when it hurts. Vine's fronds drooped, the chamber's light dimmed, then alarms blared. Miras, the root of clarity, shuddered, its hull groaning under artillery fire. Kessa's voice crackled through Eli's comm. Eli, the fleet, they're firing on the flagship. Vine staggered, clutching a data console. Traitors, they've usurped my command. Eli grabbed her arm. You got a hangar? Something with escape pods. Why would you? Do you? She nodded, dazed. Mira, take her. Eli shoved Vine toward his daughter. Go. Mira hesitated. What about you? He tossed her the plasma pistol. I'll hold them off, Dad. The word hit him like a bullet. He turned, drinking in her face. The fear, the fury, the love she couldn't hide. Go, he said softly. She went. The corridor to the hangar was a gauntlet of collapsing bulkheads and panicked Flora crew. Eli sprinted, Naya at his heels. The ship groaned, its bioluminescence flickering, like a dying star. Ahead, a squad of rebel Flora mechs leveled their rifles. For the garden, their leader screeched. Eli skidded behind a support beam. Naya growled, her fur bristling. Yeah, I know, Eli muttered. No belly rubs for these guys. He primed his last grenade, a plasma pulse charge. Rook had dubbed the divorce lawyer, and hurled it. The explosion tore the mechs apart, their shrapnel peppering the walls. Naya darted through the flames, chittering triumphantly. The hangar doors loomed, sealed. Eli slammed the override panel. No response. Come on, come on. Naya leapt onto the panel, her claws sparking as she shredded the circuitry. The doors shuddered open. Inside, Mira's skiff hovered, its ramp extended. Kess leaned out, firing at pursuing mechs. Eli, move. He ran. Naya kept pace, a snarling shadow. 3 steps from the ramp, the floor gave way. Eli fell. The void was cold, colder than he'd imagined. His exosuit decompressed, the seams rupturing. Naya floated beside him, eerily calm. So this is it, he thought. No grand last stand, no poetic last words, just him,
a honey badger, and the endless dark. Then something grabbed his wrist. Mira, harnessed to the skiff's tow line, hauled him upward. Her face was a mask of tears and rage. "You don't get to leave," she gasped. "Not again." The skiff's artificial gravity swallowed them. Eli collapsed, coughing blood. Naya licked his face, her rough tongue scraping his cheek. On the view screen, the root of clarity fractured, its garden-choked halls erupting into silent flame. Kess guided the skiff into the quantum wake, Earth a pale jewel ahead. "The fleet's retreating," she said. "Vines broadcasting surrender codes." Eli closed his eyes. The ghosts whispered, but for once, he didn't flinch. Mira's hand found his. He held on. Chapter 4. The soil was wrong. Eli knelt in the greenhouse, gloves caked in a mixture of Martian regolith and Flora biofertilizer, and scowled at the seedling trembling in his palm. Its leaves were too blue, its roots too eager, spiraling like the veins of a living thing desperate to escape its skin. Hybrid genetics, a peace offering. It made his teeth ache. Outside, the biodome's artificial sky cycled through a perpetual golden hour. The light filtered through hexagonal panels that buzzed like drowsy wasps. The air smelled of ozone and freshly turned earth, a sterile approximation of the Amazon's heartbeat. Eli missed rot, missed the way a swamp announced its vitality through decay. But rot wasn't diplomatic. Rot didn't sign treaties. "You're drowning it," said a voice behind him. Mira stood in the doorway, her silhouette sharp against the glare of the compound's floodlights. She'd cut her hair. The curls now ended at her jawline, a practical decision that made her look more like Leela, all edges, and withheld verdicts. Eli glanced at the watering can in his hand. "It's a plant. Plants like water, not that one." She crouched beside him, her movements precise, clinical. "Flora cultivars store moisture in their stems, overwater them, and she mimed an explosion with her fingers. "Charming. They're not built for patience," he snorted. "Join the club." The seedling's roots quivered. Mira plucked it from his palm and replanted it with a surgeon's care, her fingers avoiding the fragile mycorrhizal nodes. She'd inherited her mother's hands, Eli realized, steady, certain, everything he wasn't. For weeks the compound had been a wound slowly scabbing over. The Flora's surrender had left a vacuum, a silence that rang louder than artillery. Humanity's probationary membership in the Federation came with conditions, disarmament councils, ecological audits, and this the Joint Reconciliation Garden, a half-acre of forced symbiosis, under a bubble of polymer and lies. Eli's penance, his cage. At night, he dreamed of bulkheads tearing open, of Naya's chittering swallowed by the void. He'd wake clutching his chest, expecting to find honey badger claws, instead of a heartbeat. But Naya was alive, roaming the biodome's rafters, her new hobby shredding Flora irrigation hoses. Progress, the diplomats called it. Eli called it a stalemate. The Flora arrived at dawn. Eli watched from the greenhouse, as their shuttle touched down, its hull still scarred from the war. The delegation moved like saplings in a breeze, their bioluminescence muted to a respectful teal. Leading them was Kess, her cropped fronds, now studded with Earth-made cybernetic implants, a gift from Rook, who'd taken to tinkering with Flora biology, like it was a vintage motorcycle. "You look like hell," Kess said, clasping Eli's forearm. Her grip was stronger, human strength. "You look like a traffic light." Her nodes flickered amusement. "Your daughter's idea, a cultural exchange." She gestured to the implants. Mira approached, a datapad tucked under her arm. "Arbiter Vine sends her regards." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Regards or regrets?" "Both." Mira nodded to the Flora delegation. "They're here for the ceremony of roots." The monthly ritual where humans and Flora planted a tree together. Last time, the sapling had been devoured by Naya in a fit of territorial spite. The time before that, a Flora novice had fainted after mistaking earthworms for parasites. The garden's centerpiece was a gnarled oak transplanted from what remained of Eli's Florida homestead. Its branches sagged under strings of bioluminescent orbs, Flora Tech grafted to Terran biology. A Frankenstein tree, a metaphor. Vin's hologram flickered to life beside it, her scarred torso draped in a cloak woven from earth cotton and Flora silk. We begin, she intoned. The ritual was always the same, speeches about unity, a handful of hybrid seeds, cast into a ceremonial hole, a chorus of translated platitudes. Eli tuned it out. His gaze drifted to the perimeter fence, where Rook was teaching a group of Flora youths to throw knives at a holographic target. The thunk of blades hitting mark punctuated Vine's sermon, like a heckler. And so we nurture this garden as a symbol of mutual growth, Vine concluded. Naya chose that moment to launch herself from the oak, landing in the ceremonial hole with a shower of dirt. The Flora gasped, the humans laughed. Mutual growth, Eli muttered. Sure. Mira elbowed him, hard. That night, the compound's alarms woke him. Eli stumbled into the greenhouse, expecting fire, sabotage, another damned honey badger escapade. Instead, he found Mira under the oak, her face lit by the cold glow of her wristcom. On the screen, a Flora newsfeed showed a protest on their homeworld. Youths with honey badger tattoos, their fronds dyed Terran green. They're calling it the Wilding Movement, she said. Your little meme's gone viral. Eli sat beside her, the grass still warm from the biodome's ersatz sun. You sound impressed. I sound tired. She leaned against the oak. They want what we have. Chaos. Freedom. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to prune. She shot him a look. Since when do you quote Janis Joplin? Since I became a glorified gardener. A silence settled, softer than the others. Somewhere in the rafters, Naya chittered, her claws scraping metal. Why did you stay? Mira asked suddenly. After the war. You could have run, gone back to your swamps. Eli plucked a blade of grass, its edges serrated. I did run. For years. But the swamps, they weren't mine anymore. Just mirrors. Mirrors. Showed me what I'd lost. He met her eyes. Who I'd lost. Mira's throat worked. She opened her mouth, and the ground shuddered. The biodome's eastern wall was a sieve, its polymer skin flapping in the wind like a gutted fish. Beyond the compound, the Martian plains stretched red and endless, dust devils dancing under a star-strewn sky. The breach hissed, atmosphere bleeding into the void. Rook charged past, his new prosthetic arm, a Flora Biotech prototype, glowing faintly. Mechs, old Federation loyalists. They're here for the garden. Eli's pulse roared. Of course. Peace was a knife balanced on its edge. He found Kess in the greenhouse, her nodes blazing combat red. They'll target the oak, destroy the symbol. They'll try, Eli said. The mechs descended like steel locusts, their hulls painted with the old Flora sigil, a closed fist of thorns. They fired indiscriminately, plasma bolts withering crops, shattering glass. Eli sprinted through the carnage, Naya a streak at his heels. The oak was burning, not the gentle burn of a campfire, but a voracious chemical-fed inferno. Eli skidded to a halt, heat blistering his face. The bioluminescent orbs popped like fireworks, their shrapnel embedding in the soil. Mira was already there, hacking at the roots with an axe. We can save the core. The root system still. A mech landed between them, its cockpit a snarled mass of thorns. Eli tackled Mira as the plasma burst seared the air where she'd stood. Naya leapt. The mech's pilot screamed as she breached the cockpit, a furry tempest with teeth. The machine flailed, crashing into its allies. Eli dragged Mira to cover. The roots, she shouted. He didn't argue. They dug, hands raw and bleeding, until the oak's taproot lay exposed, thick, gnarled, pulsing with hybrid vitality. Now what? Eli coughed. Mira pressed her palm to the root. We give it a choice. The compound sprinklers activated, dousing the flames. The water mingled with Eli's blood, with Mira's tears. with centuries of stubbornness. The oak shuddered, and grew. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't kind. The tree tore through the biodome skeleton, bioluminescent orbs, fusing with Terran bark, roots cracking the Martian bedrock. The mechs retreated, overwhelmed by branches that moved like whips. When it was done, the oak stood triumphant, its canopy a tapestry of earth green and flora gold. Naya perched atop it, screeching her victory to the stars. Kes found Eli at dawn, his back against the trunk, Mira asleep in his arms. The loyalists surrendered, she said. Vins en route. Eli nodded. His hands were blistered, his lungs full of smoke. He'd never felt more alive. The garden. Kes touched the tree, her nodes reflecting its light. It's not what we planned. Good. Mira stirred, her eyelids fluttering. Did we? Yeah, Eli said. We did. The memorial was held at the tree's base. Vin arrived in person, her scar hidden beneath a cloak of oak leaves. She said nothing as Rook presented her with a sapling grown from the tree's seeds. Nothing as Kes clasped hands with human engineers. But when Naya approached, sniffing her robes, the old arbiter knelt. The honey badger sneezed. Vin reached out, hesitantly, and scratched behind Naya's ear. The galaxy held its breath. Naya flopped onto her back, belly exposed. Laughter erupted. Human. Flora. A cacophony of relief. Eli caught Mira's gaze. For the first time in decades, she smiled. Years later, long after the garden had spread its roots across Mars, after Mira's children climbed the oak's branches to string new bioluminescent orbs, Eli returned to the greenhouse. His hands shook now, his hair more salt than pepper. The seedling before him was wrong again, its leaves too sharp, its roots too bold. A data chip arrived anonymously. The hologram showed a Flora colony world overrun by kudzu, the vines forming a familiar shape, a honey badger. Mid-leap, Eli smirked. He pocketed the chip, grabbed his hat, and whistled. Naya, gray-muzzled but still vicious, trotted to his side. Come on, girl, he said. We got work to do. The garden was never finished, but it was alive.